Hey Mick, you're in the car?
Yes, sir. On my way to my usual location.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Jerry.
Mac is mobile today. Weather looks nice.
Things had a hiccup this morning, but nothing stopping me from being with all of you.
We appreciate that.
Jerry, it looks like you're battening down in a cold weather storm or something.
No,
scarf
it's just a little bit chillier today. But if I told you the temperature, you'd probably throw something at me.
How cold is it?
It's like 15 degrees Celsius. But, you know, in my defense, I was born in a Caribbean island, so it's like not acceptable. No, actually, well, it is cold, but my heater broke. So they're working on it right now. And the house is a little chilly because it was built eons ago. And so whatever comes into the house, it keeps it, whether it's hot or cold. So anyway, it'll be better tomorrow. All right. Well, Josh is not here, and I know there's a bunch of people that won't be attending. Well, okay, Jason.
I'll take over Josh's items.
Awesome.
As this is largely on my end, I know he's busy with our PI meeting. We've largely finalized and proved out the model for using the Helm chart as a part of the operator. We're one MR away from going ahead and having that 100% in process. That last MR is basically a methodology to prove that what we're replacing is being replaced in full functionally. So that everything that we're using as the chart matches the functionality that we already had in place. That should be in today, tomorrow, and we can really drive forward on this one.
Awesome. Tanya.
Yeah, I'll take this next one for Josh. So the GitLab environment toolkit is now public. It's linked off the install page. It requires a premium license, and there's an MR link there that was just merged that better documents that. Mike, do you want to vocalize your comment?
Sure, thank you. Awesome work. This is a question for future. Do we know what types of installation reference architectures or installation levels we're going to support from Git? It's going to be starting from the lowest reference architecture, the 2K, going upwards. What's your view on that?
We haven't talked about starting low and working high or starting high and working low. I think everything would be supported, but I don't have a plan right now of how that would be rolled out. It is explicit in that MR that it's not for production use at this point, but I can touch back base when people come back from vacations and figure out what that plan would be.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, just want to know where it's at. Thank you.
All right, Jason.
The status of GitLab pages in Cloud Native. The first rendition of the chart is in final reviews now. If you follow along on the Epic, we do have a few more items to work through, such as OAuth for authentication and custom domains and SSL support, but that is in progress and part of 13.8. We also have a note here that before I go to the next thing, any quick questions on pages and state? Nope. I mentioned this a minute ago, so I'm going to just glance over it. But the next item in the operator is to actually fan out the rest of the services and do that in a rather quick fashion, because we'll be able to do that in parallel. After that, we have the continuing work for unified structured logging. And what we've done at this point is actually pull the fork of the GitLab logger project. It's MIT, and long ago the author said, go ahead and take over this if you want to. We've officially enabled that through a flag in the GitLab web service, which handles all of the HTTP traffic. The next one will probably be Sidekick, and a bunch of the other containers will come along shortly after. The trick we have here is how that currently renders to the logs and the hiccups that we're having in production due to the state of that data. Further refinements on that will make this much better and much more consumable. Now that we have a fork of it, we can make those changes based on production feedback directly.
Okay, cool. So the last point is that I'm going to be out the next 2 Mondays. Steve and I briefly talked about this, and we figure next week is going to be pretty low attendance anyway, so we're thinking about canceling that one. And then if someone can run the meeting on January 4th, then we can make it happen, even though I expect that there won't be a whole lot of updates there anyway. So any thoughts for those that are here?
Should we then cancel if we are expecting that we're not going to have any movement or not much movement?
Yeah, we can cancel the next 2 weeks. Like, that's not a problem. I mean, because I won't be here on the 28th, and I think most, it's like this year, the way the holidays coincide, the days off, I think it's going to be half weeks for those that are still working through the holidays. But definitely for those of us that are out, nothing's going to happen. So, all right. I don't see anybody fighting for January 4th, so I will cancel both meetings, and then we'll reconvene, I guess, January 11th. Cool.
I'm kind of expecting you to ask the question, so I'll just stop writing and ask my question.
Yes.
Are we still aligned with what this working group is supposed to be achieving, given what is written on the working group page versus what is being done right now? Because I'm feeling a tiny bit lost on what we're supposed to be achieving in midterm here. There were mentions of GitLab private, mentions of GitLab China. Are we starting any work on that, or like what are we trying to achieve with this group other than sync on this roadmap?
So I think on the main objective, which was the cloud native goals, we're still making progress on those. And then based on the discussion last week, we'll offer assistance to GitLab private, and then anything else is not a part of this working group. So there was an update about Git here today, but which Tanya made, but okay, so the update went in, and that's fine. But we did set some boundaries last week, which actually brings me to a follow-up question. Is GitLab private? It's not public, right?
GitLab private is not publicly announced.
Private has an epic that is public.
It has an epic as part of the roadmap, but as far as like a service announcement, there's nothing that I'm aware of.
Okay. The reason why I ask is because last week in that conversation, I was gonna do an MR to update the goals and clarify your question, Maren. So given that the epic is already available, I'll just point to the epic and add it. And that way it's all written down.
I mean, I think one thing, Jerry, make sure I remember right, the conversation that came up last week and everything was kind of around, is is it the primary or even any goal of this group to be kind of the primary delivery mechanism for, you know, GitLab private or for GitLab China or GitLab EU or any other site. And I think what we landed on in kind of looking back at the page and the order of deliverables and everything here is that really what we're doing is a lot of things which enable those other projects to occur,
Right.
but that those other projects, we shouldn't make those an output or part of the exit criteria for this working group.
Right. This is why I said that cloud native is the exit criteria, but that we agreed to offer assistance to GitLab private. So we're not delivering it, but it will likely be discussed here because those two things, after we get these things done, then those two things will align. And that's why I wanted to be specific. So you're right. The GitLab private is not an output from this working group, but there is an expectation that we are involved from time to time, at least in an assisting capacity.
And if there is, I think Jerry, you probably say the same thing, but Maren, if there's a way you think that given what we know now and what we've gone through in this working group to date, if there's something that we should change around the charter or exit criteria and everything, then we, I think I would imagine everyone's open to that, right, Jerry? Yeah.
Well, we will do whatever the
Well, at least
executive
discussing it,
sponsor
right?
wants us to do.
Yeah, at least discussing it and also making sure that like what we originally envisioned still makes sense. So, but I do think that like taking on the kind of like delivery for any one of those other projects like GitLab private, I don't think that that doesn't make this enough of kind of a working group iteration. Those things are a whole project among themselves. What we should
Right.
be focusing on here are the things that help enable and support those things to happen. But they need to have a whole project, maybe a working group of their own or whatever. And it could be that we're proliferating a lot of working groups. In that case, we should ask ourselves if we're doing too much at the same time. So, different question.
Yeah, makes sense. Excellent. So Maren, did we answer the question? Did we address the concern?
Yeah,
Awesome.
you have an update to also add, so I added the epic that I was
Thank you.
there,
Yeah.
so it'll be fine.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I probably won't be seeing any of you until next year, so have a great holidays, and let's all wish for a much better 2021. So stay safe.
I'll
Bye.
agree on that.
Yeah. Ciao.